Hey, welcome back to a new episode of Chapter by Chapter. Now we're going into Chapter 3 of On Liberty. So now we're moving past individuals merely holding opinions and individuals taking action and really making those opinions a substantial part of their life. And Mill believes they should be able to, without the moral or physical hindrance from others, so long as they're not harming others. Individuality of action is likely to be suppressed by the majority because it is the majority who created the way things are and the way people do things. And they can't really understand from their point of view why anyone would want to behave different from themselves or desire to live by values that are different from the values that they hold dear. And so with this dynamic set up, the individual, when deciding what path of life they want to take for themselves, must sort out what is the particular best middle ground between taking advantage of the knowledge and experiences of others and what knowledge and experiences they should seek out as individuals. For example, every individual upon coming into the world doesn't go through the long staking process of having to refigure out how to make fire. We'll just take our ancestors' words for it. But we may question and change some of the advice or morals or practices from earlier generations and seek out a life path that better suits ourselves and our individual character. And this is sort of similar to the argument of open discussion. By having more open life paths and more opportunities to be all different sorts of people, we can bring ourselves closer to the truth. That is, finding better ways of being towards each other and finding human happiness and ways to make the human spirit flourish. He who does anything because it is custom makes no choice. He gains no practice either in discerning or desiring what is best. The mental and moral, like the muscular powers, are improved only by being used. So far, this is supporting an intelligent or well thought out and occasional deviation from custom. But what about deviation that's based on, at least partly, somebody's individual desires or impulses? Mill comments on society's tendency to view impulses and desires as a sort of trap and sort of leading to inevitable bad deeds. And this leads us to a society where individuals sort of separate themselves from their personal desires or interests, and this is seen as a noble and proper thing to do. However, impulses and desires and feelings are really at their root energy, and it requires energy to bring about good in the world. If somebody does a bad deed, we shouldn't blame the energy itself, but rather the person who holds the energy and who personally lacks a conscience. To say that one person's desires and feelings are stronger and more various than those of another is merely to say that he has more of the raw material of human nature and is therefore capable, perhaps of more evil, but certainly more good. What really threatens human nature and mankind is the deficiency, not the excess, of human preferences and impulses. This directly contradicts many, particularly Christian, ideas of self-denial, and particularly the Calvinist line of thought in which the ideal human character is one who has been stripped away, trimmed of its excess, sort of like a tree or bush who has been trimmed into particular shapes rather than being allowed to grow into its natural form. But how is this line of thought able to resolve itself with the idea that God is good? Would a loving God not want its creations to reach their full potential, realize the characters that exist within them, and find love and joy? Additionally, by elevating one's thoughts to their full potential, an individual not only becomes more valuable to themselves, but they also become more valuable to others. When there is more life in the units, there is more in the mass which is composed of them. And again, so long as one is not harming others, which in its essence means preventing others from also reaching their full potentials. So this does mean that some restraints are necessary in order for the maximum potential to be met across the board of people. And if we really look at what is being cut back with restraints, the restraints that harm others, that really becomes one's selfish impulses. And by trimming back the selfish impulses, the ones that wish to hurt people or limit others' full potentials, we exceed more in our social potentials. That is, we're more giving to others, and also people like us more. So what do we gain from allowing everyone to reach their full capacities? Well, first of all, we allow what genius minds happen to be sprinkled throughout society to bring about new ideas, new concepts, new inventions, and these are often things that help propel society forward. We also might observe that these genius minds tend to be people that fit in least with others. Their individual spirits might have a more difficult time fitting into a rigid society. So when we see a reduction in eccentricity being allowed in society, this also indicates a proportional reduction in things like mental vigor, moral courage, and genius. But these are usually the characteristics that are necessary to root out truths of the past that are no longer true and practices that simply don't work for people any longer. But independence of action and disregarding of custom is not deserving of encouragement solely when it brings out better modes of action. Nor is it only people who have mental superiority, as Mill puts it, but basically who are smarter, that deserve to live their life along their own path. There's no reason that all human existences should be constructed on some one or some small number of patterns. Human beings are not like sheep, and even sheep are not undistinguishably alike. Justifications for living different modes of life would be sufficient if it was only due to people's different tastes and preferences. But Mill goes further to say that different human beings actually require different moral environments. Just like different plants fundamentally thrive in different climates, every person is not made up to thrive in the exact same moral environment. If we have a world in which people are not able to seek out these diverse ways of living, there will always be people who never meet their potentials, intellectually, emotionally, morally, aesthetically. It doesn't help that the bulk of society is made up by people who don't desire this mode of living that's out of reach so strongly, and therefore they can't empathize with people who feel the strong desire to live their life in a very particular way.